Hello and Happy New Year! It's been a while, hasn't it? Sorry I've not done an episode in a while. Life happens. Christmas, New Year's, birthdays, all-consuming events. But Happy New Year! We're now in 2022. I'm starting the new year with a episode I'm so happy and excited for, all about puppets. Why? Because everyone loves puppets. I'm joined by the lovely Jess from Parker Puppetry. We talk about her work on the UK touring tour of Avenue Q, her amazing work on that. I honestly geeked out a lot. I'm a big fan of the puppets, Muppets, Jim Henson, all of that. So we had a really great talk, and we talk about her own company called Parker Puppetry, where she's the founder and director, where she teaches people online and in person how to use puppets. It's a fantastic episode. I really enjoyed it. I get to geek out a lot. If you're a massive Muppet fan, you'll love it as well. So, thanks for joining us in the new year, everyone. Enjoy this wonderful episode. Apologies ahead of the episode for my attempts at doing an Elmo and Kermit voice. I tried. I think they're good. You tell me. Just before we start, remember we are on all social media from Twitter, Facebook and Instagram. Instagram's where it's mostly at. But if you want updates on the podcast, new guests and what's coming in the future, go there. And if you're really generous, go to Apple iTunes, podcast review, webpage, whatever they call it nowadays, and give us a 5-star rating and a lovely comment just to say what you like about the podcast, so the podcast can continue to grow and we can continue to champion amazing, happy, lovely stories. I'll stop babbling on. As you can tell, I'm really excited because of the new episode out. Enjoy. Hello and welcome, finally, to the podcast. Jess, hello.
Hello.
Now, the listeners won't know this, but we've had a fun little half an hour setting up technology. I haven't done a recording since October, so that's probably on me out of practice. Just because Christmas happened and I'm just out of the loop of things. So sorry, I seem so unprofessional. But you have a lovely setup. I love all the puppets behind you there.
Yeah, so I thought I'd put them on display behind me. I know that listeners probably can't see them, but I've got them on display. Proudly sat there. Well, I've got 4 of them out on display out of my about 40 puppets. So this is just 4. I thought that would be enough.
Do these guys have names?
Yeah, so we've got I say obviously, I don't know if obviously everybody knows, but Parker, who is my let's say the brand character for Parker Puppetry. So I've got Parker, we have Bobby, we have Peggy at the back. I can't quite see Peggy. I might get her out for you in a minute. And then there's these guys. I haven't actually given this one a name yet, but they're a breed of puppets that a really dear friend of mine is building and making currently, and we've called them the Gubbins. The Gubbins, yeah, because basically my friend Paul is an exceptional professional puppet builder. He's built for so many production companies and the Jim Henson Company. He's just got a wealth of experience and knowledge about building, and he'd got all these from his years of experience on productions and television productions and films. He'd got years worth of basically scraps of felt and foam and fur up in the loft, basically acting like loft insulation. So he was like, I want to get all these scraps of material and let's just see what happens. So then I thought of the word gubbin because it means kind of like scraps and bits and pieces and odds and ends. So they're called the Gubbins. They're the family of Gubbins, and he's just churning them out left, right, and centre and just popping them on the website for sale. But they're amazing because they are a pro build, and Paul also he built all the Avenue Q puppets that you or your listeners might have seen on the most recent UK tours of Avenue Q. So the Cellar Door UK tour and international productions, Paul recreated all those designs, made them. So he's got 3 full sets of Avenue Q puppets that are for hire as well. So I'm very familiar with his build and the way he builds, and puppeteers will know that sort of every build is sort of different on the inside. So because I've worked on Avenue Q for so long, so many years, I'm really familiar with how the puppets feel, how Paul builds them inside. So yeah, it's a really kind of to have a gubbin. It's a really familiar. It's like coming home because it's like the Avenue puppets inside. It's really nice.
I was going to ask because I know we'll get into all of this, and we are jumping a little bit ahead, but start it while we're here. With Avenue Q, obviously it started in the US, it came over to the UK and the world. I take it that the puppets, there's more than one puppet of the character. There are multiple puppets, I take it then. Like there's not just the one Cookie Monster, not Cookie Monster. There's not just one Cake Monster or Monster.
Yeah. No, that's right. There's multiple puppets. I think as an exception for the puppets that appear, the characters that appear for only a brief amount of time. For example, if you're familiar with Avenue Q, the newcomer at the end, there's one newcomer puppet. There's also one Mrs. T, which was one of my roles. So there are exceptions, but generally speaking, all of the puppets have multiple bases and clothes and costumes on. And that's just basically to make it super efficient and easier in terms of the character's development and changes through the show. So for example, with Princeton, he starts off in this incredible, he's just graduated from university, and he starts off with this incredible, hat and gown, and he's got his scroll that's attached to his one hand, the hand that the puppeteer will operate with one of the rods. So he's got his scroll, his hat and gown, but then he then needs to come on stage quite soon in his what we call base outfit. So it's base Princeton, which is used for the majority of Act 1. And then in Act 2, it's kind of like he has a different kind of look and outfit, because in Act 2, at the end of Act 1, he goes through a bit of a journey, he goes through a bit of turmoil and sadness, and then he gets a bit depressed in Act 2. So he has this kind of like kind of relaxed attire, and he also then has a wedding suit for the wedding of Christmas Eve and Brian. So yeah, in terms of outfits, and also we have the famous one, which is the naked Princeton, which is the most fun of all.
Oh, of course, yes, the sex scene.
We have naked Princeton and a naked version of Kate, and they are generally made with longer arms to make them floppy. So the arms can flop over the bed very easily because they've got longer arms. So they're also built a little bit different. And then Trekkie, you'll kind of, if you're familiar with the show, Trekkie Monster, it's how we're able to get from window in one house to the window in the next house very quickly. And that happens in The Internet is for Porn, because you've got one, he appears in one window for porn, comes down, and then Kate's kind of like, what? And then he appears in the next window across in another like building. So that's how we're able to perform multiple Trekkies at the same time. Well, not the same time, but like a split hair second. Yeah. So it's kind of a comedic effect for the audience to see one Trekkie down and then another Trekkie, and that's what's funny about that scene as well, making them appear like quite close together. So yeah, there are multiple puppets. I think the full set is about, I think it's 33 puppets in total. Yeah, so, and they all get transported. We call them the puppet hotels. They're boxes, really. They get packed away and transported and really well looked after. Their stage management become our puppet wranglers, what we call in the puppetry industry. A wrangler is someone who looks after the puppet, checks the hair, makes sure their fur is okay, give them a little brush now and again. So the stage management team will become our puppet wranglers for the production.
Nice. I when I was younger, I worked very briefly on the CBeebies show Justin's House, where they have the puppet Little Monster. And I remember them being very, very particular about how Little Monster was cared for. It wasn't my job to do. So I wouldn't be too scared to touch it in case anything went wrong with it. but I remember them being the combing and the looking aftering, and even just treating it like it was a real cast star. But it was just, but I loved Little Monster as well. I thought she was beautiful, and I was like, I love this. I loved working on it as well, which was a great thing.
Yeah.
But back to you. Let's introduce you properly to the podcast. Who are these two people? Jess, and I'm going to do my best to introduce you in the best way. So if I mess up anything, do let me know. You are Jess Parker. You are the founder and director of Parker Puppetry. You are a trained professional performer. You are the resident director for Jersey Boys 6, 20th Century Boy, Wizard of Oz, and are the associate director of the UK touring tour show of Avenue Q. That was a lot to say. Did I get any of that right or wrong?
That's great. Apart from the fact that I'm now Parker Hewitt, because I just got married in the summer.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. So it's a bit weird getting used to that. And I keep slipping myself. I keep writing Parker and then just being done with it. But yeah. So yeah, apart from that, it was all great. It was all grand.
Oh.
Yeah.
So are you going to change? You're not going to change the name of the company, I take it, though, even though you're wedding now. It's still going to be Parker.
No, still Parker Puppetry. Yeah. Still Parker.
I honestly, I know I mentioned this briefly before, but I honestly can't tell you how excited I am to be doing a puppet episode. I genuinely love all things Muppets and puppets. And I saw the play, The Ocean at the End of the Lake the other night, and they have a massive monster type puppetry. Amazing. And it was incredible. It was beautiful. And I even as a kid, I watched all the, I think my first Muppet film was probably Muppets Take Manhattan. And then obviously Muppets vs. Carol. And I remember my 15th birthday getting a VHS Muppet Treasure Island, which was, I mean, I'm old enough to have a VHS, but that was on loop all the time. And this morning I was so excited to record with you. I had the Avenue Q soundtrack on, and my poor neighbors, bless them, if they liked it or not. But before we even get into that, into everything else, we obviously start the podcast with a happy moment, where we start and our guest shares either a story, a fact, memory about anything that's happy. It doesn't even have to be puppet related. It can be literally anything. What would you like to share to get the ball rolling into happiness?
I think something that makes me really happy is my students and my student successes and coming with puppetry, because a lot of people come to me and have never picked up a puppet, or they have and they have no idea how to use it properly. And we will definitely talk about this, but it's really important to me to bring puppetry, especially in the UK, and to make it as inclusive and accessible for everyone globally, especially in the UK as well, to bring it to people to be accessible to learn, and anyone can learn it. It's not necessarily, I want to be a professional puppeteer, I'm going to come to you for lessons. It's more, an average regular person who would like to learn how to use a puppet properly. And my happy story that I thought I'd share with you is of a student of mine. His name's Tom Jarvis, and he started. Hi, Tom. Yeah, I have to tell him. But Tom started taking my course right when I first started it, right way back in the first lockdown, and he loves puppets. He loves puppetry, loves the Muppets, and he had a couple of puppets of his own. And he came to me and wanted to take some classes. And I was approached by his sister, first of all, because they'd watched a live webinar, and his sister contacted me and said, do you offer private tuition? Or will he be okay in a group scenario, your group classes, because Tom's got Down syndrome. So I said, yeah, I'm happy to meet him. Let's do a one-on-one. So met Tom, fell in love with him straight away, and his energy for puppetry and his puppets. And then from there, he's been in all my group sessions. He does all my puppet lip sync battles with his puppets. He's got multiple puppets over the years that have joined him and his family of puppets. And he struggled with some things when we started. He struggled with lip sync because of the timing. So it's kind of like he heard the words, but in the hand, it was just slightly behind, and the focus as well with the hand. So there were things that he struggled with, but my God, he has practiced and worked worked and refined his puppetry. And honestly, it just makes me so proud now to watch him and watch his performances when we do our lip sync performances. He's becoming a great puppeteer, not just somebody that has learned how to, but he's becoming a great puppeteer. And that for me, it fills my heart with joy that someone has come on that journey for so long and put so much effort and energy. And he just brings a smile to my face every time we see each other in class, and just all he's accomplished. And it proved to me that puppetry is for everyone. It's not just for, I'm going to become a puppeteer. It's for anybody who wants to learn. And Tom's a great example of that. He's kind of like my poster boy in terms of how far he's come with his puppetry and his journey. So that makes me incredibly happy.
Oh, lovely. That's a lovely moment to get this podcast started. Well, Tom, if you're listening, hello. I hope to one day maybe watch lip sync battles. Speaking of the lip sync battles, is it RuPaul style? Is it a song? Is it a monologue? How's that work? I'd love to know.
I love that you've got that, because a lot of
hello.
A lot of my avenues, I've named them after songs or after something. So, for example, the Rod class, Avenue E, is You Can't Touch This. See, Hammer, can't touch this. I try and put a little bit of my stuff into my classes and what they're called. And the lip sync battle was definitely a nod to Drag Race, because I love a drag race, love RuPaul, and I love a lip sync. And I thought, what more to make sense than actually puppets doing a lip sync battle? Because that's what they do a lot of the time. Sometimes obviously we do live vocals, but sometimes we can sync along. And I did a lip sync battle because a lot of the people that come to do the classes, like I said, they're not necessarily from a performing background, so a lot of them don't want to sing. Some of them do, but a lot of them don't sing or don't perform, and they actually want to be they don't want to be in view, they just want the puppet to do all the work. So I thought it's going to be a great idea to do a lip sync battle, because then nobody has to sing. I send them their songs in advance. Sometimes I send 2 of the same song, so they don't know what anybody else has got. They don't know what anybody else is going to be delivering. So they turn up on the night and we do a bit of a mega mix refresh in the class, and then we get onto the performances, and they go to the little backstage areas on Zoom. So I create a backstage environment with Zoom rooms. I go around them individually, just checking their volume, checking they're okay. And they put so much effort into it. I'm talking green screen, I'm talking props, I'm talking they've got their other halves to chip in with a little puppet in the background, and using different things. They really go to town with it. But really, it's essentially the end of the beginners classes, and it's like a celebration of what they've learned and putting it all together in one little pocket of puppetry, which by that point they should have had enough of the beginning elements for each little segment of puppetry that I've put together to put a performance together.
Nice.
So that's it's kind of like an end performance class for those who have done A to E, the classes. And then what's been happening is that a lot of people just return and just book on and do them, who have been students for the past year or 2, and they'll return and they just want to do it because it's so much fun. And it honestly feels like a night at the theatre, like on Zoom, especially when we were in lockdown and we couldn't go to the theatre. It was a real performance. And then we always have a little cheeky social afterwards. We always grab a glass of our favourite tipple. And a little snackaroo or something, and we'll have a little chat and we'll have a social, and it's just a nice way of keeping the community together that I'm sort of growing and building.
I love it. It feels like a TV show that should happen very soon. And we've got Masked Singer, which is, it's on TV. Say what you will about it. It's on TV. RuPaul's Drag Race. A lot of them look like puppets a lot of the time. So why not? Why not puppet lip sync battles? So back to you. So let's go all the way back in the past. Your training. How did you train? Did you train to be a puppeteer? Did you train to be a performer? What was your journey?
Yeah, so I grew up in the West Midlands, at Dudley in the West Midlands, right in the heart of the Black Country. I always knew that I wanted to be on stage. That was my goal. My career goal was being on stage. So I worked really hard. I got into arts ed at school in London, and I did my training, 3 years, really intense, really hard. I look back on it and I don't know how on earth I did it. The long days and, dance, singing, acting, really intense. And then I was really fortunate. I don't think I'd graduated and I got my first job. And it was a #1 UK tour of a musical that it just been at the Victoria Palace for a while. It was a version of Kiss Me Kate. So I got my first job and then went on tour. And then I was kind of really fortunate in my performing career. So I did some lovely shows. I did one cruise where I cruised around the Caribbean for like 9 months. So I was able to travel. Yeah, I did a Vita where, I spent a lot of time in Europe, Germany, which I love. I love Germany. So I was really fortunate in my performing side of the career. And then 2014 was my turning point, really, because that was when I got cast in Avenue Q. And it was a turning point for many reasons. One, because I hadn't picked up puppets since I was little. I used to do puppets when I was little, and do little shows and things, but I put it down because I really wanted to be on stage. So my focus was dancing, singing, acting. So it was one of those things, those skills that I had, but then I put to the side. Like, I used to play piano, I used to do karate, and everything just went to the side while I focused on my career, what I wanted to do. So yeah, I got cast in Avenue Q. So what that brought to me was the skill of puppetry again. And then what it also brought me was my creative skill. So by that point, I think I was early 30s. Yeah, early 30s. No, I wasn't. My maths is terrible, by the way. FYI, listeners. Everybody's trying to work out how old I was.
If it's not a colour or a shape, not interested.
Basically, I was getting to the maturity, let's say, where I was kind of heading in that direction, because it's my personality. I was good at sort of looking after things, and I had got a really good relationship with the producers of Celador, who this production Avenue Q was. So it became my creative journey, because then I became resident director. So I was in-house, on tour, resident director. And then
I wanted to ask, what is the difference between a resident director and what is a resident director, better still?
So a resident will, normally what would happen with a resident director is that they would visit and do show watches and just make sure the cast are kind of, they'll do a show watch, they'll do notes, they'll do understudy runs, things like that. With an associate director, it's much more like they have the kind of creative input when, say, the director can't be there. So the director can't rehearse a show. So the director's away working on another show, they'll bring the associate director in, who is basically like the stand-in director, because they know the show so well.
Okay.
So they will take over rehearsals of the main cast, whereas the resident will sort of come along and do understudy runs and things like that, whereas the associate have much more groundwork from the roots of the show, from the start of the rehearsal process.
With a show like Avenue Q, then, and I guess most big shows where the plot is what the plot is, the story is what the story is there much leeway to change? I mean, not change the story, but to change the direction? Or, I mean, how does that work? Do you have to stick to how it is? Because I know in Les Mis, they were very strict about everything. So I wonder, how does it work with Avenue Q?
Yeah, it's slightly. I think it's slightly different with Avenue Q. Cressida, who is the director, and I am her associate. She was very much of the. Well, she is. This is how she is as a director. Anyway, she's amazing to work with because she gives the actor that creative input themselves. So if they don't feel, because when you rehearse shows that have been out for a long time, it's very easy to be like, right, stand on that spot, go to that spot, go to that spot. You're happy here, you're sad here. I mean, that's very, very simplified, but what Cress would sort of say, this is the feel, this is where we're going. This is, if there was any steps, these are the steps. But then in terms of the scenes and the core of the character, she would let the actor, make a choice and make their own choice. And it was really key with Avenue Q, because of the puppets and the comedy, because not everyone sees the line in the same way when you've got a puppet on. So what really made the audience laugh, a puppet reaction. So obviously with puppets, we have manipulation where we can manipulate the head or manipulate the mouth to create an emotion. So
Listeners, I know you can't see this, but Jess is, even as she talks, she has her hand up like she's got the puppet on. It's amazing just to watch. It's quite entertaining. I wish this was a visual product.
It's my ghost hand. It always just creeps up. my skeleton puppet just always creeps up. But yeah, so the manipulation of a certain line. So, for example, in Mixtape, so if one of the actresses that played Kate chose to do a little and it really worked as a reaction, another actress might take a line and go, oh, and do a head roll or something as a reaction. And so that's why we give them the creative leeway, and they will discover things with their puppetry that's slightly different to if you were just going through the motions as yourself as an actor. You find different ways to manipulate that puppet that work for you. So yeah, there is definite changes, I think, but not major changes, just knowing that you can add your own little something, your own little spice to a character that doesn't need to be, no, actually, we know that this works. If you roll the head this way and you open the mouth, then the audience is going to love it because we know the audience is going to laugh because that's what happened before. But
sure.
Actually, we let them find their own way by getting the show open, and then they can see what works and doesn't work with their manipulation by the audience's reaction.
Nice. So when you walked into the Avenue Q, then was there much of a? I mean, I imagine you weren't just thrown on stage straight away. Was there a workshoppy training process? Because I imagine you weren't used to. You hadn't done puppetry for a few years. So was there a training? I'm doing the hand thing now. Was there a training process as to how to use the puppets and how to get used to them and how to act with them?
Yeah.
Also, was it weird? Because obviously you're in the show Avenue Q. Obviously, the puppet is more in front of you, and they're the focus, the actor. I watch it and I remember thinking, God, I don't remember actually seeing any humans, but obviously there are humans on stage, but it's just but your focus is so heavily on the puppet.
Yeah, it's really bizarre actually as an audience, because I remember seeing Avenue Q when it was in the West End, and this is before the version that I did and my production of it, or the Cellar Door production. I remember seeing it and going, I'm not going to get this. This is, I can't, who am I looking at? And it's confusing. But it's up to this is what I always say to puppeteers now, it's up to you to know where the line is in theatrical puppetry, to fill in the gaps enough with your expression. So you're filling in the gaps for what the puppet can't physically do to show the correct emotion, and not to do too much that it's distracting from the puppet. Your job is to make that puppet come to life as much as possible, so that the audience 100% believes that character is a living, breathing character. And if you're doing that correctly, then the audience's focus will go, shift and go to the puppet, and that's where it will stay. So it's really up to the puppeteer. It's really up to them to really be exceptional puppeteers and learn really, really quickly. So yeah, my when I first auditioned for Avenue Q, it was quite intense actually. We did a quick 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 sync in the mirror with Nigel Plaskett, who is the puppet director for Avenue Q, and he has been my mentor. So Nigel taught all the casts of Avenue Q with the puppets and how to puppeteer. He's incredible, and he's the loveliest guy, dear friend, and I'll be forever grateful for him to be my mentor and to teach me everything that he knows. So Nigel would do a quick, here's how to hold your hand, here's how to sync, just drop by the thumb and just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And from that, he would be like, he would know. And it's really clear because you can tell straight away if somebody's a natural puppeteer and those who aren't. So we would do a little filtering process straight away before they even come in the room. And that's what happened to me. And then when I went into the room for my audition, it was like meeting celebrities because the puppets were just lined up. And I was like, oh my God, there's Kate Monster. And it was like meeting celebrities. I just couldn't believe it. And my recall, I had to sing Fine Line. And I went in there expecting to sing Fine Line. But then Nigel just came at me with Kate and was like, yeah, put her on and let's do it with her. I was like, oh my God, I've only just learned how to count to 10. How am I supposed to sing an entire song with her? And I remember them filming it at the same time. And as I finished, I remember saying, well, God knows what just happened there. So I hope you all have a good laugh with that. I was like, I literally don't know what my hand just did. It just went. I don't know. It was probably terrible. I don't know. I mean, I got the job, so it couldn't have been that.
Do you have
terrible.
that recording?
I don't know, actually. I don't know if it's still there. It's probably
find it hidden somewhere in some box somewhere.
I should ask. But yeah, now in the audition, because I'm now part of the audition process, and now when we're looking for casts, the last time we auditioned for the 2019 tour, we do like sort of like a mini workshop. So we get variations of groups of everyone that's up for that character in the room throughout the day. And we'll get them to put the puppet on, and we'll get them to do their scenes and things, and we'll get them to act with each other with the puppets on. And it basically just gives us by that point, everyone can sing the songs, everyone can do the voices. At that point, it's a really clear indicator of who is a natural puppeteer, because it's important, because the rehearsal process is so short. We don't have the luxury of having 4 weeks, a month, 6 weeks to teach them everything there is to know about puppetry. We have a week window for the puppetry where we have to just get it all done, and teach them as much as we can about puppetry in that short amount of time. And then, it kind of blows their minds, because you've got to think about your lines, you've got to think about your songs, you've got to work with the MD for all the harmonies, the steps, the sum of the pieces. But then you've also got this alien thing now that you've not used before, and you don't know how to use properly still. You've been shown, but everything goes out the window when you start learning your songs and you start, putting it on its feet. So it's really tricky. I always say it literally feels like playing about 5, those big music men with all those instruments attached to their body, like boom, 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 and they're playing all these instruments at the same time. Literally is like that. It's like playing several instruments at the same time. It's really, really tough. So yeah, anyone that does Avenue Q, has got to have good coordination.
Is there a strict policy on taking the puppets? If someone wanted to practice more, are they allowed to take the puppet home with them, or is it a strict policy of this puppet now stays in its home kind of thing?
No, absolutely not. Yeah, we couldn't take the puppets home. you can't take the puppets home. No one can touch the puppets apart from obviously us when we're using them on stage, and the stage management team who act as the puppet wranglers. So yeah, no one else was allowed to touch them. Even people that came backstage, no one really can touch the puppets. So yeah, definitely not taking them home.
I guess when you look at them, they look like toys, and you look at like Sesame Street where you like the little kids hug Kermit the Frog or hug Elmo. It's like and they're furry as well, so you want to like maybe like stroke Absolutely. Them. That sounds strange when you say it out loud, but I can see the appeal as to wanting to love them, because I guess you forget they're puppets a lot of the time, and you think they're real essences and people.
It's fascinating because it's one of the first things people want to do. They you can see their hand coming out in slow motion, and you kind of go, no, the face of the puppet, and he's like, ah! It's one of the first things. People's instinct is to touch them, and with the Avenue Q ones, it was just absolutely strictly no touch policy, because they had to sustain a long tour. So if anybody had dirty hands or grubby hands, or if anybody touched an eye and they pulled it or anything and it fell off, like it's just too much maintenance that was going on already, thrown in the mix, people touching them and manhandling them in the wrong way. We just couldn't risk it. So it was basically a no touch policy. With some of my puppets, I do have them touching people, and sometimes I'll give someone a hug, and I will be in character at that point, so that they won't feel like they want to touch the face, because it's a person, it's a character, so they don't feel like, oh, I'm going to go for the face. So they'll much more go for the hands. So do a lot of hand shaking with the live puppets. I do a lot of hugging, and and sometimes they'll want to children and some of my send groups will want to kiss, so they'll want a little kiss on the cheek or something like that. So, and it's tactile, and it's important to give them that as well at that point.
So when you were performing in it, which puppets did you play then?
So I was Mrs. T, I was Bad Idea Bear, I was Second Arm to Nicky Trekkie, and I was Cover Kate Lucy. So
I think I've seen it twice. I've definitely seen it at Manchester. I think I've seen it before then. I may have seen it twice, or definitely once, but maybe twice. I love the Bad Idea Bears. I think their humor is mine to a T. They are so dark but cheery, which is my cup of tea to a. I remember just laughing so hard at those evil, so funny bears. You should kill yourself. It's just like stuff like that is just like, what? You can't say that, but you said it. But I guess that's the whole Avenue Q to a T, isn't it?
It is, yeah. And they're the perfect theory of the angel and the devil on your shoulders, kind of telling you to do something, telling you not to do something, telling you why. It's so funny, and it's so funny. The writing is brilliant, but the sort of thoughts that you have, those kind of just one more drink, I go right. And it's like that voice that you have in your head that you shouldn't, but it's telling you to. And that's where they nailed the Bad Idea Bears, because it's just genius. And putting it in the cutest looking little fluffy Care Bear-esque kind of characters is even more funny. And doing this kind of, really, we had to be careful with the voice, because if it became too tinny, then it sounds menacing, rather than we had to keep it really cute, like really soft and really cute. Sometimes it was, when we got into the swing of things, and you can hear the audience reactions, sometimes you feel your voice change a little bit, but it's really important to keep this kind of softness to the voice, because that's what's funny. That's what's really funny about it. They're super cute, and what they're saying doesn't make sense with what they look like. So, and that's the gag.
I love them. If you could have played any of the other characters, did anyone stand out to you?
Oh, you know what? I mean, apart from the obvious like Kate, Lucy, which I did play quite a lot. So that I can't really say that, because I did play them. But the other one would be Rod. I love Rod.
Rod's
I
great.
love Rod. Oh, he's just that scene that he has with Christmas Eve where he breaks down on her, and it's just when we've been rehearsals, honestly, whenever the actors always do that scene, there's never, I don't think there's ever been a time where we haven't had, a little tear, because it's so beautiful, that moment done right, and with the puppet leaning on Christmas Eve and her taking the puppet in her arms, and it's just beautiful, because at that point the actor has to come out of Rod and go and get into Princeton, the college.
Right.
So the puppet would go and hug Christmas Eve, and then Christmas Eve would take, and then the puppeteer would exit, and then the Christmas Eve would lift and carry Rod off stage. So it looks like she's carrying like a child.
Yeah.
So it's a really beautiful moment. And then he has some crazy moments, like my girlfriend who lives in Canada, just insane. So yeah, he has some great moments in the show, and I would have loved to have. I did actually get to use him, because as the second arm, I used every single one of the puppets, because the actor that was playing, I don't know, Kate, for example, if she had Kate on, and she had a scene with Lucy, I would come on as Lucy, and the actress would throw her voice, and I would catch it and sync it. So that was really nice, because what I got to do was, every character had a different body language and a different energy with the body language. And I got to use all of them. And that was really cool. And I think it's what gave me the knowledge of the show, because I was everywhere. My track, I was everywhere, and I operated all of the puppets. So it was kind of like a natural progression to become a creative on the show, because I knew it so well, like the back of my hand. So yeah, probably Rod.
Amazing. I love Lucy. I think she might be my favorite. She's in it for a scene or two. Right. But her song Special, I haven't done it for karaoke before, but I would love to. I'm not sure how it would go down in karaoke, but I would love to do it. And it's just a bit of like, just give me a feather boa, and I'm like, I can make you feel special.
She's fabulous. She's such a fabulous character.
Such a great character. And it's like, people think of me, they normally think happy, lovely, cute James, but really I do have a bit of a dark sense of humor. So as a kid then, were you were puppets a big thing in your life, in your family, in your upbringing?
Yeah, I had an uncle called Uncle Eddie, and when I was I think I was about 3, and he had a massive stroke, a huge stroke. I mean, he was a 6'5" man. He was huge, and, and he had a stroke, and it really affected him. He really struggled to walk. He lost all ability on his left hand side, and he really struggled. And when we used to go in at the start, when he just had his stroke, we used to go and see him in hospital, and I don't know where we got it from, but he just came up with this little puppet. And obviously I was little, so my memory is hazy on it, but he had this puppet in hospital, and every time I'd go and see him, I think it was his way of making me feel not scared to be in a hospital. And he would bring it out, and he would talk to me with this little puppet, and it was literally like a hand puppet. And I don't even know, I haven't got it here, I'm gutted, my mum's got it at home. It kind of looks like a monkey, but I don't think it's questionable. Like, I don't quite know what it is, but it ended up, I called it Monkey Punky. So Monkey Punky was a little hand puppet, and he used to talk to me with Monkey Punky. And that was my first, and I was like 3, and I loved it. I loved that puppet so much, and it's now mine. I have it. But he used to, I think it was to, like I said, to make me less scared about the hospital and about seeing him and about his stroke and such. And it definitely works, I was sold. And then I was a huge Roland Rat fan. Huge. I haven't got him here. I've got mini versions of him, but I have my main Roland
Don't
is
think
at the
I
heart.
know who Roland Rat is. Who's Roland Rat?
So yeah, Roland Rat. I mean, it's show my age, but Roland Rat was in the early 80s. Was it BBC? Can't remember. But it was on UK television, and he was a puppet rat, and he had this kind of. If you listen to it now, if you look on YouTube, there's like clips of it. Has this kind of weird, kind of like it almost is a Brummie accent. Like,
I'm gonna just quickly look at a picture and while you talk.
it's a really unique kind of Brummie.
Oh, hang on. I do recognise this character.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah,
Yeah.
I had something of that is in the back of my brain. Yeah.
Yeah. He had a pink car that I loved, and I was obsessed with Roland Rat. I loved Roland Rat. I think that was my introduction more when I was younger to the UK puppetry characters, like your Gordon the Gopher, Oates the Aardvark, Ed the Duck.
The Aardvark. I had a Ed the Duck as a kid.
Huh?
I had a Ed the Duck as a kid.
Oh,
I remember
brilliant.
Ed the Duck. Sooty, yeah. Ed the Duck, Sweep.
Sooty and Sweep, Rainbow. That was, I think before I knew about the Muppets. I think the Muppets came later for me. For me, it was the UK puppets, and it was also Sesame Street. I watched a lot of Sesame Street when I was growing up.
Yeah.
So for me, that was my first little insight into puppetry and television puppetry and how puppets can be used on screen to communicate and to educate children. And then when I saw, obviously I love puppets, and then I knew about the Muppets. So most of the time people are like, oh, I got obsessed with the Muppets when I was little, but for me it was more the UK characters, Sesame Street, before I went on to love the Muppets.
Nice. I guess it's weird how this Elmo Rocco thing has weirdly come back into pop culture at the moment. I'm not sure. It's just this. I don't know why, but all I see on Twitter and Instagram is this spoof about Elmo getting annoyed at Rocco, which is adorable, but it just shows how long the content lasts for, because it is just generally good.
Yeah. It's the writing. It's the writing. The Sesame writers, the Muppets writers. It's just timeless. That's what's so special about it. It's timeless comedy and messages. It's timeless, and it's all relatable. It's all still current, as well. Like, it's just. Yeah, it's really special. Not many things can do that, and they have. And Jim Henson, he did that.
I think I'm biased because I am myself. I think I do a pretty good impression of Elmo and Kermit the Frog.
Oh,
may I think I can. I mean, others may disagree, but would you mind judging my impression?
Absolutely, I would love to.
Okay, let me do Kermit the Frog first. Let me get in the zone. His voice has changed though over the years, so it's not the same as it used to be.
Different performers, different performers evolving.
Hey ho, it's Kermit the Frog here on the Champions of Happy with Jess. Yay! It's kind of there, kind of not there.
That's great. That's so good.
Me. Thank you. And my Elmo is
Right, go for Elmo. Elmo, you can only do it if you're male because it's in a falsetto. So I can't do an impression of Elmo. It doesn't sound right. But it only sounds right because it sits in a male voice, like Miss Piglet. Well, like them all, but like them all. But it only sits in a male voice where you can do a really good impression.
Oh, Elmo did not know it. No, that's not very good. No, I can do better than that. Elmo did not know it. No, I can got my headphones on. Elmo didn't know that. Rocco. Hello, Jess. Sesame Street. Champions of Happy. It's kind of there. It's a bit stitchy, actually. It's a bit there. I think it's okay, but
Great. It's
Don't think Jim
great.
Henson Company are going to call me anytime soon. But yeah. If you could puppeteer any puppet, be it British, American, now, past, future, which puppet would you love to work with?
Red Fraggle, 100%.
And they've come back as well, the Fraggles, on Apple TV.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's my birthday in 2 days, and it's out on the 21st of January.
Happy birthday for then.
Hey, that's so cool. So yeah, red Fraggle for sure. She is just fearless. She has a voice that I can do for a start. But she's fearless. She's got this great energy to represent a girl, one of the girl Fraggles. She's got this great energy, and I think she's absolutely fantastic. So probably red. And the other, if I had another one, it would be Abby Cadabby. I love Abby Cadabby.
Who is Abby Cadabby?
Abby Cadabby is on Sesame Street. It's
okay.
Sesame Street character. So not a Muppet character. It obviously is a Muppet, and she is a Muppet, but it's a Sesame Street character. And she is a little pink fairy.
No, I have seen her. Yes. No, I do know her.
A little wand, and she is puppeteered by Leslie Carrera Rudolph, who is fantastic because she comes from a performing sort of musical background as well, and she's just beautiful. It's a beautiful character and a beautiful energy, different to Red completely, but yeah, I think between Red and Abby, I would love to.
Can we hear your Red impression?
You know what? It's kind of.
Is that throwing you on the spot?
It's kind of. Actually, it's not. I'd say it's not too. Actually, you know what? Parker who is my staple. She is a combination of Red and Abby. So, yeah, I was about to say, it's kind of similar to Parker's voice, but it's not. She's more. See, this is the thing. You've got to get. It's really. You've got to
get in the zone.
You've got to sort of get your voice. Oh, hey everybody! I'm Red.
That's really good.
So it's Karen Prowl who did the voice for Red for so many years. She kind of has this bounce to her voice. Oh, hey there, go. So it kind of has this kind of like bounce to it.
I feel I'm at Fraggle Rock. I'm loving it. I need to get Apple TV to watch the series. I haven't got Apple TV. I've got every streaming service except for that one. Parker Puppetry. When did that begin? Was that while you were doing MUQ? Was that doing a lockdown? So when, where, why, what? Yeah. Go with that.
So Parker Puppetry was born out of the lockdown. I always had the thought in the back of my mind whenever we were auditioning for MUQ, which was I'd been part of the panel for a few times. And it was always like a real thing for me. I was like, why does no one know anything about hand and rod puppetry? And it would literally be a thing that I'd fleetingly think, and just, especially in our industry where it's, so characterful. And if you're a character performer or a voice actor, it's just such a great skill to have. A lot of colleges and universities in the UK will teach other styles of puppetry, tabletop, unraku, shadow, but nowhere really teaches this style, or I'd certainly never been taught it, and anybody that I'd ever met as an actor and actress had never been shown how to use a hand and rod puppet. It was always on the job. So we'd get a job, and then we'd learn on the job, like I did with MUQ. So it was always a fleeting thought, why? But because I was so busy, I never had time to explore why, or even just pause and think, I want to do something about that. So the lockdown happened, and my best friend runs her own theatre school, And it was at the time where, right at the beginning, and all the performing arts schools, the part-time, the full-time, were looking for classes from professionals to do routines from the shows they'd been in. Singing classes were online. Everything went online, didn't it? And my best friend said to me, do you want to do a class for the students? And I was like, yeah, okay, I can do something. And she was like, what about something from Jersey Boys? And I was like, it's tricky with Jersey Boys choreo because it's quite static. It's quite static, and I'm not sure. So I was like, I'm not sure. What about something from Six? I was like, they've done Six to death. Like Six was, everyone was learning routines from Six, left, right, and centre. So
I do love Six though.
I know. It's incredible. And it's great that it was accessible to anyone over lockdown to learn these routines and these songs. Anyway, so my best friend then said, what about Avenue Q? And I was like, well, I can't teach Avenue Q because I can't teach the puppetry online. That would just not work. And she was like, okay, well, what about if you just do a little introduction to puppetry? We just do a Q after. And I was like, great, fine, sold. So went on to this, it was like a live video.
Mm-hmm.
And I just had a few things that I wanted to talk about in terms of how to hold your hand, how to sync, how to make it talk. Anyway, I was going for nearly 45 minutes just on the basic element of constructing the hand and your physicality. And I hardly had any time left for a Q&A by the end of it. And she messaged me straight away afterwards. I think she phoned me actually straight away and said, that was brilliant. You need to do something with that. You need to teach it because the kids loved it. And, it was really engaging, and you should definitely think about doing it or doing another class. So I was like, and that's what got me thinking. And that's what spurred my brain on to go, actually, all these years, I've wanted to teach it. I just didn't think it was possible with people that don't have a puppet at home or don't have a puppet, just in the loft or whatever. So it was on the really hot days of the lockdown, and they were so hot. I don't remember.
We had a lovely summer that year, and we had to stay inside.
Yeah, it was like
the rage,
and it was heat wave. And I remember sitting outside on my little sun lounger and literally with an A4 notepad, and I just decided to write down the key things, and I decided to create a syllabus. So I just spent hours upon hours writing formulas for classes and exercises that are bespoke to me and my way of teaching and my way of explaining things. So yeah, I spent ages constructing it, and then I just decided to put them out one by one. I think I did, my first one was a live, and then I created the Zoom classes. So then I, started to advertise them and, put it out there. And then it kind of just went from there, really. And it's just kind of snowballed in an amazing way. And yeah, I think the why for me is, like I said to you at the beginning, is making it inclusive and accessible for anyone who wants to learn, because it hasn't been really up until this point, not in the UK anyway. So right. no one's been teaching how to do it. It's such a small community, and it's I don't guess people will have the time, or I don't know, but it's just never been a thing that people have sort of taught, like outside of, say, an Avenue Q workshop where someone like Nigel would run a workshop for people who wanted to learn Avenue Q. So yeah, and my goal with it's not necessarily, like I said to you, to create, create a next generation of puppeteers. That's great, but it's really to provide this sort of training to people who use puppets in their career that aren't necessarily performers or puppeteers. So, for example, I get a lot of people who have franchises that utilize puppets in their classes of their franchise, like baby groups or toddler groups, where they use puppets for their kids, but they have no idea how to use them. I teach a lot of teachers who use puppets in a classroom as an aid, because puppets can be a great teaching aid to, you know, help a child to read. They create a great listening tool, so that the child can read out loud, the puppet can listen. And it kind of takes away the pressure of sitting there with an adult teaching you how to read. It bridges the gap. So I work with a lot of teachers who want to use it in their classroom. I also work with, I've had therapists that use puppetry and puppet play therapy, where they will use puppets in their sessions to help children communicate. So it's a broad scale of person that I'm teaching. It's not just, oh, I want to teach everyone in the world how to puppeteer. It's just that I want to teach them how to use their puppet if they use one, and it's not just about we have this term in the puppeteering world called shaking the dolly, where it's just like, that's what it's called. It sounds really weird, but it's shaking the dolly, like you're just picking up a doll and just making it come to life by dragging it around and just making its mouth open and close, but it's so much more than that. And when you have a little bit of knowledge about it, it actually makes people so much more passionate about it. And that's what I want to encourage as well, this passion for hand and rod puppetry, because we don't want any art in the performing arts world or arts world to die out with a generation. We want more people coming through and up, and keeping the craft alive, really.
Amazing. So let's say I'm a newcomer joining a class. How do I take part if I don't have a puppet at home? What do I do?
Yeah, so what I usually say is that Avenue A and Avenue B, because all the classes are called avenues, because that was my little hat tip to Avenue Q and my journey with Avenue Q. So each class is an avenue, and it starts at Avenue A, and Avenue A is beginning, absolute bare bone beginning steps, and Avenue B is Master of the Sync, so it's all about syncing. And I sort of say for those two classes, you don't really need a puppet. I work a lot with the skeleton, what we call the puppet skeleton, which is your hand essentially, and how to hold it and how to work it. So you don't actually need a puppet, but what I do ask for is just if you haven't got one at home, like a sock, like a loose, like a bed sock or something that's quite large, so you can tuck it in and you can sync with just the feeling of something on your hand for the final exercises. So I say that for Avenue A and B. And then if you don't want to go any further with the classes, then that's kind of a good point, because people have been like, okay, I've got the basics, I've got the very, very basics. But then if they want to progress into learning about manipulation, about expression, about how to use rods, if they want to take it to that next level, then I generally find, 99% of the time, people have always then invested in a puppet, whether that be a £20 puppet that they bought on eBay for a really good deal, or invest in something more constructed with rods and things. So I generally find that by that point, 99% of the time, everyone's kind of cooked by that point. So they want to do the next classes with a puppet.
Nice.
So yeah, that's kind of the thing for a newcomer, really. You don't really need a puppet to start with, just your bare hand and a sock. Clean, preferably.
Yes, preferably clean. So I'm not of the puppeteering world, but I imagine, as it is such a niche skill set, and just hearing from you, it sounds like it isn't taught very much within the UK. Is it a very hard industry to get into then? Like, if you're a puppeteer, like, to actually get into the job?
Yeah, in terms of screen puppetry, then I'd say yes, it's incredibly hard in the UK, because I always say that like work generates work, and another goal of mine is to create more concepts and more work with producers on a new puppet show, whether that be for theatre or TV, because I think it's really important to keep, like I say, keep puppetry alive by providing more work for the puppeteers. And you know, there's not enough theatre puppetry in this style anyway, in the UK. In the US, a lot more things are going on in the US with hand and rod puppets and new theatre productions and such. There's a great production in the US. It's called Bird Call, and they use all hand and rod puppets. They're all birds. There's another great production in the US at the minute. It's the Golden Girls, but they're all puppets of the Golden Girls. Yeah, it's amazing.
So what is that one called?
The Golden Girls. It's the Golden. If you look at the Golden Girls as the musical, and they're all puppets.
I have a lot of friends who will be very interested to know that. Who will be very excited. Well, Ben, I'm talking about you. I know you'll be very happy to hear that.
It's so great, and it's such a shame that we don't do more of it in the UK, because I think UK audiences, I know because of Avenue Q, they would so invest in more puppet shows like theatre style. But yes, in answer to your question, because there's not a lot of screen puppetry in the UK in terms of film and productions and characters, there's generally not that much work out there with the hand and rod puppetry, that is. And it is a very kind of small pocket of performer. Whereas, you know, if you're in theatre, I think it's such a great skill to have, because, you know, there's this type of puppetry, even though it's, you know, I'm saying there's not a lot of this style of puppetry in theatre, in theatre productions, there is actually variations. So Shrek has hand and rod puppetry because of the gingerbread man. There was the Little Miss tour, the Little Mr. Little Miss tour. There was the Madagascar tour that was using all the penguins and things. Now Frozen, Olaf works on a kind of, it is a mechanism style hybrid type of puppet. But it's got a hand element, and there's rods there to operate. So there are so many productions that use it, not necessarily Muppet style, but do use a hand and a rod to operate a puppet in a theatre production. So in that respect, if you do learn how to puppeteer and you then have it on your CV, it's brilliant. I mean, gosh,
sure.
we would have killed to have people come in the door for Avenue Q with it on their CV, because honestly, no one had it on their CV. Anybody that was walking in wouldn't have it on their CV, and anyone that did, it was like, right, oh my god, we found the golden. Because it was just so exciting that someone had got any style of puppetry on their CV. So yeah, hopefully that's changing now, if you know, because a lot of performers and musical theatre performers have done some classes, so they have an understanding at least. So I bet they're like, I can't wait for Avenue Q to come up for audition again, because I know how to do it.
Well, it sounds like you're paving the way for people who are interested in doing your classes. Then, is there a particular? Can you be any age? Are there certain classes for different ages? How does that work? Is it a mix of? Is everyone mixed together? How does that work?
Yeah. So the classes, my course classes, so the ones that are an hour and we have them weekly, they are adult classes, so I'd say 15, 16 plus, just because I didn't want any younger than that. Mix it. I didn't want adults feeling they couldn't express, you know, they were sort of watching what they're saying because of children in the room, and vice versa. And so I just thought it was it's best to keep it that way. But then my workshops, I've taught groups where they're 7 years old, and they obviously, every teaching style of puppetry is different. I don't go in and go, right, this elbow's got to stay here, and I don't talk to 7-year-olds in that way. It's a much different workshop.
Sure.
It's very different, but 7-year-olds all the way through to, I guess, in the 60s, you know, that's the age range that I've taught anyway. And the school workshops are are different, and I'll go into schools and colleges and part-time theatre schools, and they will have an introduction to puppetry. They'll learn how to do the very basics, and they'll get to use the Parker Puppetry puppets, and they get to come up with a voice and come up with a character, and then they get to improvise with their characters, and they love it. It just goes down like a storm. So
when it comes to, obviously, when you're online, people can be from anywhere, but when it's the in-person live classes, are they generally based in a particular place, or is it UK everywhere?
Yeah, so the in-person, there's sort of two types. I do my in-person workshops for organisations and schools. So they would approach me and they'd book me, and then me or one of the other teachers that works for Parker Puppetry will go out and deliver the workshop. That's a very kind of framed, this is the plan of the workshop. This is the syllabus. Whereas my in-person Parker Puppetry workshops, they've just started in November, because before that it was always tricky to organise anything, and it still is, to be honest.
Sure.
I've not booked another one yet, because I'm just waiting to see. I guess we all are. But that's very much like individual people booking on to come to a day in London or wherever it may be in the UK to have a day of puppetry, or a 2-day puppetry workshop, a 2-day intensive. And they're very much like, the one I did in November was basics in theatrical style. And then the next plan is to do a screen puppetry workshop, where I'll have a setup and they'll get to work on monitor, because that's totally different. It's a totally different experience to obviously theatre style. And it's a lot harder, because you're working on a monitor that's on a straight scan, which basically means when you lift your puppet up and you feel you're going to go right on the monitor, goes left. So it's not like what we have the luxury of on our phones, where it's a mirror image. It's a reverse.
Oof,
so
tricky.
Yeah, really, really tricky. So that in itself is a whole other element of the skill to really learn and refine. So workshops in that, and workshops in building and how to make a puppet, and lots of things, but those are individual bookings that would come and would all come together.
Nice. Well, I'm very interested. I'm going to be looking into booking in a session myself, because I love, like I say, I love puppetry, so I'd love to do a class at some point. We are coming to the very near the end of the, I was going to say the show then, but it is a show, the podcast. Something I found on, I was trying to find a quiz or a game to end. I couldn't quite find something, but I did find there was this funny tweet that someone tweeted quite a long time ago, like 2 years ago, where they said, take a film, replace everyone except for one actor with Muppets. So some of some of the examples were the Truman Show, but you keep Jim Carrey and then everyone else is a Muppet, or Clue, where you keep Tim Curry and all the other characters are Muppets. One I thought was quite funny was Jaws, but keep the shark and everyone else is a Muppet. And I thought about Scream and keeping Sydney as the only human. I was wondering if you could direct a film where you replace everyone except for one character as Muppets or puppets, what would you do? That's really putting you on the spot as well. I have to really think about mine.
I want to say, like, what about a really random, I'm going to say like a horror film. So something like so something like, I don't know, Nightmare on Elm Street, where Freddy Krueger is the main character and everyone else is puppets. I think something like
that would work. I think that would work. Yeah.
And quite
a lot of interesting blood and stuffing.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Which I think would work on a comedy point. So maybe it'd take away the horror and add a little bit of dark comedy in there.
I can see that. Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah,
well, like I said, we have come to the end of the podcast. Thank you so much for joining me on the Champions of Happy. It's been an absolute delight. I'm looking forward to looking at what courses I can join in the future with my skeleton hand, and I might have to find a sock or a puppet or something to join in. But thank you again. And so before we go, could you share your socials so people can find you?
Yeah, so it's the same on all of them. So it's at Parker Puppetry, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram.
Amazing. Well, everyone go subscribe, go follow Jess's work, follow her TikTok, and very funny videos on there as well. And we'll say goodbye now, and thank you so much.
Goodbye. Thanks for having me.
No worries. Thank you so much, Jess. It was so much fun to help. No, I'll stop that before it gets weird. Bye-bye.